right. So when you're at the tour, what sort of things should you be asking?
Come prepared. Write all your questions down, but take like a few key questions. You don't need a list of 100 questions that you found online that you don't know why you care about the answer.
Right. Ask meaningful questions.
Ask questions that actually matter to you. So ask about that max capacity. If you couldn't find that online or you didn't ask about it in the initial email, ask them about the max capacity and ask them about the extra things you're talking about. Like, I'm expecting 150 guests with a band on a stage and a big dance floor. Is that possible in this space? Let me see a floor plan of how that looks. So ask about those kind of questions. Of course, you need to know the dates that are available. A good thing to ask is like, what does the layout typically look like in here? That doesn't mean it has to look like that, but what does it typically look like? And of that layout, what's included? Like, what's included in my rental? How many hours do I get? How many hours of those hours to set up and breakdown included? So a lot of times, people will be like, you get an 8-hour rental, and people are like, oh my gosh, that's so great. Like, I'm going to have 8 hours. It's so much time. But what you're not thinking about is you need at least 2 hours for setup and 1 hour for breakdown, which is 5 hours, which if you're having your ceremony on site is actually, cutting it a little close on the time. Yeah. So those are things to look for.
There's no break.
Yeah. No. 5 hours is going to be a short reception with the ceremony.
Yeah.
So definitely talk about that. And then what kind of policies and restrictions do they have? So do you have to use their in-house catering or choose off their catering list? If you have to use a specific caterer.
I think that's an important kind of thing that people don't think about, is that, especially the catering piece.
Yeah.
Because if you don't like someone's food and you've already signed a contract to the venue, that's too bad.
Yeah, you're locked in.
You're locked in.
And you should get some initial pricing from the caterer too.
Yeah.
The venue may be able to provide you with that. But if they can't, I would reach out to them to make sure that, again, you don't want to spend all your money without even having anything else yet. So I would figure that out. And then what other vendor restrictions do they have? Do you have to choose people off of their list? If you're already working with someone or you have your mind on somebody, how does that affect that relationship?
Yeah. And then there's other, like you said, there's restrictions. Like there's, venues that we've talked to that don't allow, taps or different things like that to come inside. Like there are going to be restrictions. So you want to make sure you understand those fully. If you haven't, as you're starting to plan, you don't want to pay somebody and then find out later that, oh wait, I can't use you, but I still need to pay you. It's under contract.
Exactly. And sound restrictions. That's a big one. So especially if your ceremony or reception is going to be outside, what are your sound restrictions outside? A lot of times you're not allowed amplified music,
right? Or
your music has to be off by a certain time.
Or you shouldn't play Nickelback
at all.
Venues.
Is that a restriction or is that just good advice?
Yeah, it might be just good advice, but it also could just be, a specific, bands that they don't want played.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but yeah. I mean... Sure. But I had a wedding that was outside and the band kept increasing their sound and the venue, we kept talking to them and they kept saying, oh yeah, we'll turn it down. And then, 5 minutes later I turned around and they were turning the sound back up and the venue was like, I don't want to, but if they keep doing this, I'm going to have to shut the event, a venue down early. So know those restrictions and talk to your vendors early and make sure they're comfortable with those restrictions and they're not going to go against your will.
Right. And these rules are in place for a reason, and not because people are mean or whatever it is, or they don't want what's best for you. They do. If you get into the wedding business, you do it because you really love your couples.
You do.
So yeah, you want to understand those, but keep in mind that there are reasons for them.
There's a reason. Yeah.
So so those are some great questions to be thinking about, meaningful questions for you, not just a list of 100. What should you be looking for as you're walking around?
It's hard to describe, but you want to feel this feeling of almost excitement.
Yeah.
You want to walk in and be like, this is it. Yeah. You want to see yourself walking down the aisle or, dancing on the dance floor or what, taking your ideal picture in this rose garden or whatever it is.
Right.
You want to feel like this is going to be the place that I'm going to remember. I mean, this is such a big day. So it needs to have that feeling. You want to walk in and be excited and leave feeling excited. Because if you feel that feeling, you're going to know like, yep, that's the one. This is where it's meant to be.
Yeah.
And then you'll feel good about it.
Nice. I love it. I mean, it's true though. It's almost instinctual.
It is. It's like an energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you wrap up the tour. How do you leave it?
So I would always suggest asking, what are next steps if we decide to move forward?
Do the tour guys not ask that?
Sometimes.
Interesting.
I would always ask, like, if we choose to move forward, what do we do? What does the deposit look like? What's the contract look like? What's that process look like? And then I always recommend asking if they do any kind of courtesy hold or if they do any kind of temporary hold. A lot of venues, if you're really interested, might hold, a date for you for anywhere from 24 hours to a week. Typically it's like a courtesy hold where if someone else wants to book, they give you like first right of refusal.
Right.
But that gives you some time to see a comparison venue, go home, talk with each other and any family that's contributing or anyone else who has an opinion on this that you're interested in. It gives you a little bit of time before you have to put money in and sign an official contract.
So explain the courtesy hold a little further. So like, how does that work?
If a venue offers it, usually they'll take your name down. A courtesy hold, typically there's no cash involved.
Right.
And I mean, there's one venue here in Charlotte that will do it for us. And it's happened to me many a times where they'll call me and they'll say, hey, I have another couple who is really interested in that date. They want to book. Your couple has, an hour, 2 hours or whatever to kind of make that decision.
So it happens more often than it doesn't.
It does with venues.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, especially during prime time. So I would say like, if you go, you love it and they have, an October Saturday available that works for you, say like, can I put a courtesy hold? Can I go home? Can I talk to my family or whoever?
Right.
And get back to you. I just want to make sure everything's going to work out. Don't do it if you're not interested because that's silly.
And you're potentially hurting somebody else or even the venue.
Yeah. So don't do that. But, it's definitely worth asking like, I'm really interested. And then if you decide not to go with that venue, let them know, hey, I'm not going with you, but, please release the hold and blah, blah, blah. But,
right.
Yeah. Let them know from there.